seems like it's an important topic because there's so much talk about non-duality. So before we can talk about non-duality, we really have to understand what duality is. Yes. So duality is apparent everywhere we look in this world of form. I mean, there's left and right, hot and cold, spiritual and worldly, up and down. Everywhere we look, tall and short, skillful and unskillful. Everywhere we look, there's this apparent spectrum with polar opposites that we can name. So the first thing to notice is that is to acknowledge that when we look around, this is what we see. So this idea of experiencing unity or non-duality isn't a matter of sort of squinting our eyes and making everyone look equal. It doesn't work like that. Even in the U.S. Constitution, when they talk about, all persons, actually they said all men, but let's say all persons are created equal, it's not actually true. I mean, it's true in one sense, in the sense of awareness that we were just talking about, but it's not true in terms of appearance, intelligence, economic status, opportunities, skills, basically everything that people normally use to describe themselves. There's differences everywhere we look. So the first thing is just to acknowledge that in this world of form, this sort of dynamic tension, we can almost conclude that it's required for life to exist. Okay? And so we don't need to deny that in order to get to non-duality. So the second thing to realize is that this concept of duality, rather than just seeing it as however things appear, is a contrivance of the human mind, right? As Shakespeare famously said, there's no such thing as good and bad, but thinking makes it so. In other words, there's not, events that occur that are being, judged by the totality, let's say, as good or bad. All we can say with any certainty is that is what happened, without imposing the additional layer of, well, that's right or wrong, good or bad, which are all, clearly dependent on one's perspective. So this sense of seeing the world as in this kind of spectrum and judging had or still has a useful function. Using the mind in this way to make distinctions allows us, well, one thing it does, it allows us to talk about things. It allows us to conceptualize about things. And it, without that, there wouldn't be a basis for creating morality dictums. Right? So it has a function. It has a useful function in terms of these body minds navigating around in this world. So we're not trying to get rid of duality, which would be a pointless exercise. And any attempt, you'd have to see that any attempt to get rid of duality in the name of non-duality would in fact be a dualistic gesture, as opposed to that. So we can relax about the whole idea of, duality bad, non-duality good. That's not what it's about. Actually, non-duality includes everything. Nothing is excluded, including duality, including the duality of good and bad, right and wrong. All of that is a conceptualization that's imposed on existence as it unfolds by the ability of human mind to think conceptually. So we can see that sort of human basis for this seeing the world as dualistic. And if we're convinced of that's the fundamental nature of existence, then we proceed from that perspective that things are, one thing is separate from another thing. We can look and see the differences. They're not the same. So if we start from that point and look at like what about me? There's this sense of feeling separate from the rest of life, and what I'd really like to feel is sort of unity with life, a sense of being comfortable in this existence, being okay, feeling content within myself. I know a lot of people are chasing eternal bliss, but abiding contentment is not only achievable, but very nice. So when we go looking for, this thing that could be called non-duality or unity, we have to be a little careful about concepts like unity, because it's easy, once you have a concept like unity, it implies that there's the possibility of something else, right? We can say, well, there's unity, and then there's all this appearance where there's all these differences that somehow don't fit into my concept of unity. So unity, we have to be, as with all words, we have to be a bit careful about how we think of them and not think of unity as opposed to something else. It's just, it's again, the best we can do with the words we were dealt. And it just means that excludes nothing. Right? So then, if we're looking, how do I get there? We can start looking as what do I take myself to be that is holding me separate from that sense of unity or non-duality. And I think the way most people view themselves is well, it's me, it's this body-mind organism and its storyline and hopes and dreams and fears and regrets and all of that total package. That's what I am. And then the world is out there. So I think the way most people look at this is, especially before they get into spirituality in a sincere, introspective kind of way, is that I'm here this side of my skin, and everything on the other side of my skin is other than me. So that, with that fundamental belief in the primacy of this body-mind, that's the fundamental dualism. Me and everything else. Me being defined as this body-mind, again, with all its storyline and resume and financial status and all of that. But then we can look a little deeper to see if even that's true. And we might see that, even what appears to be this side of my skin includes a lot of things that don't stand up to whatever sense I have of my sort of deepest self. right? I mean, we know that we could have a certain, storyline and history and skill set, but none of those things would define this sense of being me. Somebody else could know all of those facts about me, but wouldn't have the sense of being me. So we can say, well, I can have these memories, I can have these sensations, I can have these thoughts, I can have these emotions, but there's something more fundamental that is noticing when any of those things occur to me, right? So in that sense, the fact that there's something that can notice my thoughts, feel my feelings, experience what I see, feel the sense of touch, whatever the source of information is, that there's something more primary, even though, we could say, well, I'm just looking at my psychology, it must be inside me. Yes and no. It's occurring within this body-mind, yes, but there's something more fundamental that's aware of you feeling that, namely awareness. So we can say, well, okay, I guess what's really fundamental is awareness, and then there's everything else. Adyashanti used to call that a nice, manageable duality. Me is awareness and everything else. Right? So, and the sense is that, well, since everything else, the appearance, is dependent on this awareness, then somehow awareness special, appearance not so much. Right? So we have this not only divergence, this duality, but we have a judgment about it. I'm in spirituality now, so I'm just going to try to stay in this awareness thing as much as I possibly can. Right? In the meantime, life is happening, and it's challenging to the person that's trying to stay in awareness all the time, as if awareness could go anywhere. Right? No, it's me. I have to maintain it. Who's this me? My belief that I'm a spiritual person and this is a good thing to do and it'll pay off down the road, and whatever our belief is. So even the sense of this sort of the ultimate duality, me is awareness, and then there's the appearance of everything else, including this body-mind. So then the question is that really true? I mean, it's true and relatively true, but is it absolutely true? And then we can start to see that even the appearance, whatever the appearance is, thought, feeling, sensation, perception, whatever the appearance within awareness is, it requires awareness, yes. But it's also, if indeed there is only one source of all, then the appearance must also be of that same source, and therefore not less than the awareness. In fact, it would be sort of a pointless to, be aware, but there was nothing to be aware of. I'd have to speculate that we'd just be reabsorbed into the infinite potential of source. But that's not what's happening. We get to play both roles. We get to be aware of creation, and we get to participate in creation, both. So it ends up not being this or that. Like most things spiritual, it ends up being paradoxical. This is more like this and that. Yes, awareness is fundamental, but we have to acknowledge the incredible, complex, beautiful presentation of creation. occurring at every moment, right? To which we are a witness and within which we are a participant. So there's ultimately no need to deny the appearance, including thought or feelings, but to recognize that it is all an expression of the one source.